Okay, so that's a lot of pressure to follow the documentary, especially, that was actually the first time I've seen it, so if I'm a little like all over the place, that's why. When we filmed that, I was a PhD student. I'm a postdoc now, and I didn't have any kids at the time, so I'm kind of watching it through the lens of a new parent. It's really impactful, so thank you so much. So I'm hopefully going to talk to you about a little bit of a more uplifting topic, and maybe you'll not cry during this. I'm going to talk to you about how EDS patient scientists are really shaping the future of connective tissue disease research. And I'm sorry, we're going to watch like another little short video to start it. From a young age, I've always loved science. I was interested in pursuing a career in research. When I got into MUSC for graduate school, I started my PhD, and I didn't really know what I wanted to study. I met Dr. Norris.
So she asked me what I did, and I said I work on heart valve disease. And she revealed that she had Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome.
I was diagnosed with EDS when I was around 19 years old, but there's no direct treatment and really not a lot of research going on into why this is happening or what we can do about it. Most days I have been able to manage it, but I'd be lying if I didn't say I'm in pain basically every second of every day.
I asked her what the gene was, and she said nobody knows.
He was like, well, do you want to try and find the gene? Find the gene, we can do that. We started with a large family that had EDS to kind of narrow down and find a genetic cause. From that, we were able to have a small list of genes that we then narrowed down to one causative gene for EDS. With the genetic registry that we developed, we found this mutation in other patients and other families as well. This was the first gene discovery for EDS.
MUSC really enabled us to become a world-leading institution with a focus on Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome.
Even as a student, I always had a seat at the table. To have leadership and administration listen to someone who was, just a PhD student is really rare and unique. It takes a long time to make a scientific discovery. This process is slow, so to have such a big discovery so early in my scientific career is kind of unheard of. It made me really excited for every next step along the way. I want to talk to you not about the research, but about the people doing it. I want to challenge you to sort of rethink the way that we look at biomedical research. The traditional definitions, when we think about it, are focused on biology and disease mechanisms, and let's make a medicine to treat this. And that's all very important, but a lot of times approaches fail to consider patients in this process. So biomedical research is really defined as the scientific study of life, health, and disease. And it drives treatments, it drives cures, all of those things that are why we do what we do as researchers. But it often doesn't go beyond asking, how do we fix it? We need to start asking the questions, what do patients know that we might not be thinking about? And what do patients actually need? Not what do you think they need, what are they telling you that they need? It's not just about our cells in a culture dish and our mice that live in the room upstairs. It's about the people that we're trying to help. So instead of just helping them, we really need to be partnering with them. And I think the lab has done a great job of showing what that can look like. If you talk to most scientists, they actually don't really interact with patients unless they're also physicians. A lot of them have maybe never even met a single patient who has the disease that they're studying. So when we leave these people out, the patients who are affected by the condition, we leave them out of these research conversations, what really happens? We see things like diagnostic delays. We see limited options for treatment. We see really poor healthcare experiences. Patients lose trust in medicine and research, and they continue to suffer because there really isn't any help for them. As scientists, how do we decide what to solve first, right? You could look at EDS. There are so many manifestations, and as a scientist, you might be like, oh, they have skin problems. How many EDS patients want their skin problems fixed first? I would say it's very few. What helps shape the research questions that we're asking? And then what interventions, like I said, do patients actually want, need, and benefit from? So here's an example of a fairly common patient journey with EDS. You have a bunch of symptoms. You start looking for answers. You're constantly dismissed, you're misdiagnosed, or you're not given any answer for why you're experiencing these symptoms. It takes a long time to finally get a diagnosis. You're like, yes, I know what's wrong with me. Now people can help me. Maybe I can join research studies. Maybe I can start getting answers. Then you find out there's not really any research. And because of that, there are no treatments for you. So, okay, you finally got the diagnosis. It's validating, but what happens next? And then here would be a scientist's journey studying EDS. Not ours, but just, pluck a scientist off the street and say, study EDS. They're going to have these inaccurate assumptions about the disease because they're going to, find what they see online, and they're going to see that, vascular is really bad and the other types make you bendy and it's rare. They're going to focus on the wrong disease priorities because of those assumptions. There's going to be a lack of relevant disease models, and they're going to have no clear direction in their research. They're not going to be able to get funding, and they're going to be like, I don't really want to study this anyway, and move on to something else. But when you put these together, it's really powerful. You have the lived experience of patients with the disease, and you give them the scientific training that they need to ask the clinically relevant questions so that they can gain new insights. You have this really intense passion from patients about trying to understand this, and the research tools that are actually relevant. And you can make translational research progress, like getting grants and publications and treatments is the ultimate goal. So we've seen the power of patient scientists, and this is not just through me, but it's also through programs that we have in the lab, which I'll talk about in a bit. But we've been reframing patients as the true experts. We know that patients have this really deep knowledge of the condition and symptoms that are way beyond anything that you're going to read in a textbook or a publication. They have this lived experience, and they also, importantly, have relationships with other patients in the community. So they're not just representing themselves, but they're representing what other patients that they know and connect with also experience. They're able to build trust with that community and help restore that trust and faith back in medicine and research. And then, of course, like I said, they're motivated, they're passionate. It doesn't matter that they have chronic pain and fatigue and all of these other things. They're going to be in the lab at all hours trying to make progress on this research. And then there's this really impactful increased relevance and impact of the research that they're doing. So that led us to develop patient scientist programs in the lab. We have these programs with really 4 objectives. The first is to have them contribute to research. So take patients and bring them into the lab and have them actually contribute meaningfully to research on the disease that they have. The next is to help build community. So these students connect with each other. For some of them, it's the first time they're meeting someone else with EDS in real life. I've actually had multiple interns come into the lab and tell me that I'm the first person they've met with EDS outside of social media. They connect with the leaders in the field, so like Dr. Maitland and Dr. Patel and Dr. Norris and others. They get to be mentored by other scientists studying the disease in the lab, and they also get to go to conferences and things like this where they can network and create relationships. The third objective is to get them involved in disability advocacy. This is so important. Disabled students, disabled scientists are so often left out of academic research. I could go on and on about this, but that's not the focus of my talk. But we've developed an accessible and accommodating lab environment. It's not that hard to be inclusive, and when you are, people actually work better and harder and have better outcomes in the workplace. So everyone should do it, not just science. And then we help them with their career. So if they want to go on to medical school, they want to go on to graduate school and do a PhD, we try to help them get there. And with that, we hope that they will continue to work in EDS and build out this network of providers and scientists who actually understand the disease. And we've seen some people go on already and start contributing to this. So this really started in 2020. We had our first donation to the lab. It was a private donor who was interested in helping grow our EDS research and asked Dr. Norris what he needed in the lab. And he was like, well, we really need hands. And we had a lot of young people in our patient registry and young people, that were college students that were like, do you ever take volunteers or things like that? So we decided to develop the intern program. We got 25 applicants the first year, which we thought was huge, and we took 4 interns. One of them's actually in this room, no pressure to to draw any attention to him, but he is an MD PhD student now. So that's one example of how far they've come. It went great. We went to do a second year. We got a donation from a foundation. The Fullerton Foundation decided to support us. With that, they also actually named the intern program after me, which was so incredibly kind. We have 8 weeks of these interns in the summer, and they funded us for the last few years. We've now grown to taking, how many interns this summer? 7 interns this summer, which is really exciting. And then someone else reached out and they were like, hey, we want you to actually take more people. And we were like, that's great, but like not during those 8 weeks, please. So we developed the Visiting Scholars Program, which is a few short days in the lab for students to come and visit, get exposed to what we're doing, maybe see if a career in science is right for them. Some of them then go on to apply to our intern program or go on to graduate or medical school. So we started that program. We are still taking visiting scholars. We just had a group here. Our interns for the summer are starting Monday. So some of them are actually here right now. So we've seen this grow and grow, and our current goal is to have trained over 100 patient scientists within 6 years. So we're doing this here in Charleston, but this is where all of the knowledge has been spread from our interns going back to their colleges. And like I said, where are they now? So this is specific to our summer intern program. We have 4 in PhD programs, 5 in medical or nursing programs, 1 in an MD PhD program, and 6 working as research assistants or medical assistants right now. And several of which are still in undergrad, so we don't know exactly what they're gonna go on to do. I do want to share a few quotes that our interns share with us because I think it's really important to hear from them what their experiences have been. Sydney talked about how the impact of this internship doesn't stop when it's over. Right now, you see a bunch of excited and energized students inspired that we had great mentors and exciting data. What you may not see is the confidence that each of us has internalized and the cascading effect that this program has enabled. Another visiting scholar shared that as someone with EDS, they struggled with the lack of representation that they saw. Ariana said, I was often discouraged myself from pursuing certain career paths and opportunities due to this. But the Norris Lab showed me that there are people just like me who have the kind of careers that I dream of. And Sophie, who was one of our interns last summer, she said that she was unsure as a disabled individual if I have a place in science. As a student, my disability has impacted my studies as I've had to take time off for surgeries. I've had advisors and professors urge me to change my major to a non-STEM track. Participating in this not only reaffirmed my place in science, but showed me how important it is that I continue my path in biomedical research and medicine. So I challenge everyone here, whether you're a patient, a researcher, or a medical professional, to really reimagine research with patients at the center of it. I encourage you to collaborate with patients, not just as subjects, but as true partners in research. Engage communities, the patient communities, throughout the research process, starting with the questions that you have all the way through to the development of treatments. And also challenge any assumptions you have about who belongs in science, what expertise looks like, what a scientist should look like. There is no reason why someone who uses a wheelchair or a walker or has a service dog cannot be in research and medicine. And there's also no reason a patient can't be. So for us, it really started with EDS, but I think this is a blueprint for what inclusive, truly transformative science across all health conditions can look like. And I hope that other people will start to model this in other disease areas. I want to thank the Mind 2025 organizers for having this EDS Day. I truly will say that when I started working on EDS with Dr. Norris, I never imagined that we would ever have a conference at MUSC for a day, let alone an EDS center, let alone Dr. Maitland like coming here and working with us. I still say to her sometimes, like, is this real? Do you really work here now? I have also highlighted Victoria Daler and Molly Griggs, whose photos are up there. Those two have done a lot of the behind the scenes in all of our patient scientist programs. Can you please give them a huge round of applause for this? I 100% showed up to MUSC as a grad student after I was waitlisted, showed up, and fell into this opportunity, which I am so grateful for. But the people who have driven these projects and made them a reality for all these other students deserve a lot of recognition. I also want to shout out all of our patient scientist program alums. If I put all their names here, we'd need like a whole separate slide. Dr. Maitland and Dr. Patel for their support, and then the 3 foundations that have supported us in this. I also really want to recognize all the patient scientists who are in the room here today. If you are comfortable, willing, and able to, and you would stand up to be recognized or put your arms in the air and wave, I encourage you all to do so right now.